Ever wondered why maps always show north at the top? Who decided this is up? Well, it's a fascinating story that takes us back in time when maps were more than just navigational tools. They were a reflection of the world as perceived by the mapmakers. In many ancient cultures, east was often at the top, as it was associated with the rising sun and new beginnings. However, with the advent of the magnetic compass in the 12th century, a tool that pointed towards the magnetic north, things began to shift. The north started to gain prominence in map orientation, primarily for navigational ease. In the 15th century, Europe saw a surge in exploration and trade routes. Mapmakers, primarily from this region, popularized the north at top format we're so familiar with today. But remember, this is just a convention, not a rule. So the next time you look at a map, remember that up is just a matter of perspective. Now, have you ever noticed how maps can sometimes distort the size of countries? It's a curious thing, isn't it? You wouldn't think that something as seemingly straightforward as a map could be deceptive. But it's true. This is all because of something called map projections. You see, the Earth is a sphere, but maps are flat. So when mapmakers, or cartographers, try to represent the globe on a flat surface, they need to make some adjustments. This process of transforming the three-dimensional globe into a two-dimensional map is called projection. And there's no perfect way to do it. No matter how you slice it, some aspects of the world will be distorted. The most common type of map projection is the Mercator projection, invented by the Flemish cartographer Gerardus Mercator in the 16th century. It's the one you probably grew up with in school. It's the map where Greenland looks larger than Africa, even though in reality, Africa is 14 times larger than Greenland. So why do we use the Mercator projection if it's so distorted? Well, it's because it's excellent for navigation. The Mercator projection preserves angles, which means that a straight line on a Mercator map is a constant compass bearing. That's incredibly useful for sailors and pilots who need to plot a course across the ocean. But the downside is that it exaggerates the size of countries closer to the poles and shrinks those near the equator. This distortion can give us a skewed perception of the world. For example, Europe appears much larger on a Mercator map than it actually is, while Africa appears much smaller. However, it's important to remember that map projections, including the Mercator, aren't about misrepresentation. They're about making the complex task of navigating our round world on flat maps possible. So, while a map might give you a distorted view, it's all in the service of helping you navigate the world. Just remember to keep in mind that the world is a little more complicated than it appears on a flat piece of paper. Ever wondered how the world's borders came to be? They're not just random lines drawn on a map, but rather the result of a complex and often turbulent history. Throughout the ages, these boundaries have been drawn and redrawn time and again. Wars have erupted, dynasties have fallen, and nations have risen, all leading to the shifting of these invisible lines. Colonization played its part too, with explorers from powerful nations sailing to distant lands, claiming territories, and drawing borders as they saw fit. Treaties have also been instrumental in shaping the world's borders. Nations sitting across tables, negotiating, compromising, and agreeing upon the lines that define their sovereignty. But it's important to remember that these borders are not always set in stone. They can often be a source of conflict, as people, cultures, and resources are divided. Borders may seem permanent, but they're really just lines in the sand, susceptible to the tides of history. Did you know that there are lines on our planet that you can't see on the ground, but they're integral to our understanding of the world? Imagine standing on the equator, the imaginary line that neatly slices our planet into the northern and southern hemispheres. It's not visible, but it's a crucial concept in geography. Now picture the prime meridian, another unseen line that runs from the north to the South Pole. This line helps us define time zones and is the basis for the global navigation system. Let's not forget the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. These invisible lines mark the furthest points north and south where the sun can be seen directly overhead at noon. They are key to understanding the Earth's tilt and the changing of the seasons. These invisible lines help us make sense of our world, even if we can't see them with our own eyes.